You're listening to the Brand Builders Podcast with your hosts Scott Dunstan and Brian Young.
Welcome to another episode of the Brand Builders Podcast. My name is Brian Young. We are here with the president of the Dunstan Group, Scott Dunstan, and we are here with Greg Harris from VitaCorpo, which let's talk a little bit about that. Now, our country is always looking for ways to safely return workers to offices right now, specifically during COVID. We want businesses open, but right now we have a second surge of COVID that's really threatening that setback. Now, employee health surveys are one way that we can work to achieve that. But wouldn't it be easier to have a data-driven way for employees to test their own health before they even leave home? Well, yeah, there's an app for that. There's an app for everything, but this is an app that's going to be really important to really get us back to where we want to be. Now, a Charlotte-based app developer has created a way for workers to check their own temperature and blood oxygen levels and repeat it directly to an app to share with their employer. It's a cool new way to use technology to solve a problem, and their CEO is here with us today, Greg Harris, on the Brand Builders Podcast to tell us all about it. I think it's a topic that will be very interesting, and we have a lot of questions. But Greg, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Brand Builders Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you very much, man. What a cool thing you have going on here, bud. It's tell us a little bit. How does this work?
Well, so VitaCorpo is a COVID-19 response management platform. And within that platform, you're looking at how to remote monitor the temperature and the blood oxygen level of employees, students, or whomever it might be, and collect health survey information, which is things that they're doing manually today. It provides real-time data analytics upon interface with the system, so employers can make real-time business decisions. Athletic directors and coaches in schools can make real-time, school decisions about, whether to have class. Are we having an outbreak? Do we have hot spots and things of that nature in a real-time perspective? Also being able to look at historical data from a reporting perspective, just to kind of look at the trends of what's happening in your community. VitaCorpo provides an avenue to do contact tracing. As we are fighting this pandemic, we're hoping to get rid of it, but the likelihood is that we will be doing this for a while. But as you identify a possible infection within the community, you're able to take that host and trace back to people in which that host has been around within a certain span, time limit, and distance, and also quarantine and check those individuals to ensure that they have not been infected. We also provide a management hub, and when I say management hub, you're essentially doing all of this in real time on one platform. But one of the things that has been eluding the community today is the ability to manage all of this information. So if I have a person who's been quarantined, how do I know how long that person has been in quarantine? Who put that person on quarantine? When is that person supposed to return? When does that person need to go take a test? Do I need that employee or student athlete to stay home for today until we further investigate the situation? All of these things are being managed within our hub, right? So one place to manage everything. And then we have, how do we do that? So now we're looking at, the wearable, which is the watch. We're looking at the temperature check and the blood oxygen check with our bundle, which allows you to do all these things prior to even entering into anyone's environment, so that you will have a pass, fail, or workplace ready or not workplace ready indication prior to even leaving home, right? So you also have the ability to say if the individual devices are price prohibitive because there's so many people, if you want to allow yourself to do a kiosk scanning, then you can do that as well. So you can do scanning, through a kiosk on an iPad or tablet or our scanning devices, and associate that person's image to their account and that temperature check would be put into their account and provide them on the spot, pass or fail or workplace ready to enter any facility. And a lot of things that we do, when you put all of these things in a hub, you want to be notified. So now instead of having someone going through, if you have 400 athletes, checking 400 athletes, depending on where that athlete is in the process, being notified of there is a problem within the communities, that there is a person who has failed. Now, what does that person need to do? Versus looking every day trying to figure out what's happening, you're actually being provided a snapshot of real-time information and push notification to how to handle that situation within your community. So that's the basic platform of VitaCorpo. And we're happy to be a part of something to help our country in this particular time, and people who are trying to get back to work. We understand that the economy is important, but foremost, we need to make sure that we're healthy and we have something in place that can manage our return. And that's what VitaCorpo is going to provide for you.
I love that. I want to go into something quickly. And I think, through over the last year, the one word that comes to mind is the unknown, right? Like, that is something that I think scares a lot of people. Nobody knows, like, how do we manage this? How do we live with COVID? How do we continue to live our lives, but do that in a safe way? This seems like the key to that, or at least one of those keys that can support that. What is the feedback that you've received from business owners, from athletic directors, on not only how they implement this, or if they already have implemented, and what has the success rate been so far?
So some of the feedback that we received pre-VitaCorpo is that it has been very difficult to maintain operations, because now you're having people who are really an athletic director, an athletic trainer with their day-to-day job, being on top of that, place the responsibility of, hey, we need to manage this COVID-19 outbreak in our community. And how do we do that? So now you take a full-time person whose job is to take care of athletes, and now you tell them, okay, on top of that, we need you to start documenting and coming up with a plan and procedures to manage the athletes. And so it's just unattainable. Mm-hmm. You might do, a small percentage of them correctly. However, ultimately, you're going to start missing things because there's only 24 hours in a day. And so instead of you having to go out and expense bringing on more resources and things of that nature, VitaCorpo allowed them to come in and say, okay, now instead of having people at the door wonder if they're going to show up on time for this particular workout at 5:30 in the morning, they can self-entry and be approved without anyone else being there. So for the cost of what they're paying, and you can just look at it from roughly $30 to $50 a year for an individual, that is definitely less expensive than having an army of people trying to come up with the management of it. Now, the one thing I want to be very clear on is that when you look at VitaCorpo, no application, no technology solves problems. What VitaCorpo does is it takes policies and procedures that has been put in place by the college or the business or the CDC, and allows you to manage those policies and procedures automatically, right? And so what we have done is taken all of those things that we've received from feedback from the medical community, from the athletic community, from the business community, and just from the community at large, even down to the family level, of all the hardship that they have, and came up with a process within an application that allowed them to manage that automatically.
I am backing up just a little bit. You're the CEO of this organization. I'm fascinated by how quickly you came to market with a tool. Do you have a background in healthcare or app development? What exactly is your background? And is this in addition to something you've already developed, or is this a new company and a new avenue for you?
So I'll start with the last question. This is a new company. My background, I'm a computer science major out of Jackson State University. So that has always been my passion. I left Jackson State and started to play professional football, but I always maintained my off-season interaction with technology, doing, small stints with state agencies and doing some consulting work so that I was advanced enough on the technology. So after my career, I could walk into other opportunities. Those opportunities stemmed into consulting, and then from consulting, it stemmed into me owning a company. So I started a company called Z-Corp Business Solutions. We did a lot of work for the Department of Defense, the state and local government, in which we integrated a lot of applications from the DoD perspective that were health applications. My last stint was with a company called MediMobile, where I was the chief strategy officer and the chief operating officer. And with MediMobile, I worked with hospital and physician groups to integrate solutions for health data, right? And so when I was approached by Herman, it was a no-brainer. Herman and I went to high school together, and he and I had been having conversations over and over. And we both went through a scenario where we had family members who were either dying from COVID or being affected by COVID. And so with our demographic background, we are one of the highest affected population, in the country. And that's due to a whole lot of things that, we can't control. But what we looked at is a way that we could, give back to our community. And how could we, regardless of what your status was, your color was, provide an opportunity for people to be safe during this pandemic, right? This pandemic is something that no one wants. However, it is a reality for a whole lot of people, and we have a whole lot of death that we can't explain. And so that kind of pushed me into accepting this opportunity when I was approached by Herman. And I don't want to be disrespectful. His name is Herman Hill. He's our chief marketing officer. When I was approached by Herman, I immediately said, yes, this is something that I want to do. My brother's going through this. My relatives are going through this. We've had people that die from this. And it became more of a passion. So when you ask, is there something else? This is what we're doing. Have we done other things? Absolutely. But this is something that has been evolutionary, is evolving as we go. And to your earlier point, as this thing moves and evolves, we are agile enough to move and evolve with it. So at this particular point, when you look at VitaCorpo as a platform, we have all of these things in place. The next thing that's in place is once we start doing vaccination, where are we with that? And now when we move to a point where we have, COVID-19 in control, if you could ever say that, now what's the next infectious disease that we tackle, right? So this platform is not going to just be here for COVID-19, but it's going to be here for being able to do remote vital monitoring and management of any pandemic or infectious disease that might come out of COVID.
I would think that obviously you're really onto something. Me being an employer and working through leadership this year has been extremely challenging, and we're a smaller organization. I can't imagine being a government official or whomever you mentioned that's spearheading these things for companies. But it would seem like VitaCorpo is how I pronounce it, right? VitaCorpo?
VitaCorpo.
VitaCorpo. Yes, I apologize for that. It seems like that's something that every employer would want because it will help, put the folks, employees' mind at ease and all of that. We're really struggling, right? Like we've got half our team at home. We've got half our team in the office. We're being safe. We've been successful at it thus far. But yeah, like a tool like this would be extremely helpful. So thank you for being innovative there. And I'm curious on the feedback you're hearing so far.
The feedback that we are getting is that people are excited about the platform. We have some large universities at the Division I and Division I AA and Division II that we're working with that for a lot of the Division I AA schools, the FCS schools, they are not playing at this moment. But what they are doing is preparing for the return to the football field in February. And so we are gearing up, doing onboarding, understanding business requirements from them to ensure that, the product works as they need it to work in their environment. And we're being agile enough to, if there's something that we see along the way that we go, this would be an added incentive. We're agile development company, so we make those changes because we control the code, right? We've gotten great reviews. People, they ask the questions as well. When did you start? Well, we started when COVID-19 became an issue. So yes, we are new to the market. However, we're not new to the market. We have experience and background that allows us to be successful and not just starting a company, but being able to quickly develop incentives to situations or problems that exist in our community. And that's why VitaCorpo exists today. So yeah, very good reviews. I sleep well at night because we're not making a ton of money. This is not the millionaire, billionaire scenario, but we feel like millionaires and billionaires because this is something that's real. And because it's so personal to us, it just makes sense. I mean, we have a great chief product officer in Joseph Holmes who listens very well. We work very well together. And as he and his team receive these requirements, he's that person working in the middle of the night, making sure that what I told that person we could do, we get it done. And I appreciate that. So we're very excited. And the feedback has been great. I'm sorry for the long way around to that answer, but the feedback has been great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, my dad always talked about leaving a legacy. And it's not about how much money you make. It's about the impact you have on others and you have on your community. And you're doing that. You're taking the skills that you've learned throughout and matching that up with others to do the best thing that I could see out there. I mean, obviously, I think this is amazing. I do want to ask you, you look at, I'm a huge athlete. I played Division I college soccer, and it's interesting to see how these athletic departments are maneuvering around this. I can't imagine being on a college campus right now during COVID. It would just be a very interesting scenario. But you look at the NFL recently, they just imposed their intensive coronavirus protocols. Is this something that either the NFL is looking at? Because to me, I would think that this would be something that everyone should look at. Honestly, I don't know why a company would not want to have this. I'm on your website and looking at what the platform looks like, and it seems very easy. It seems very streamlined, and you could literally open up the app and know exactly, who's there, who's been able to be safe, to be able to come into work. And if they're not, you can adjust immediately. So I'm interested with things starting to ramp up. Is your phone just ringing off the hook? And what is that looking like from this perspective, where maybe people are like, we don't need it. We have it under control, but now they don't.
Well, very good question. So let me put it to you this way. The one thing that we are very good at is being innovative. And because we're obviously speaking with you today, we are trying to get the word out. When you look at the media circle today and the things that we're talking about, what we're trying to do is say, hey, yes, we know that this is an issue. Here is a solution. And this allows us to have that platform to be able to speak to what the solution does to help. When it goes down to, like the NFL and things of that nature, we are working with inroads to get there. There are protocols that they are utilizing in place. But when you look at the NBA's success of having the wearables and doing constant checking, at a very minimum cost, that's what VitaCorpo is providing in the management structure of all of that data, in the management structure of being able to communicate directly with the players or employees. So we are trying to get that word out and let people know that, we're here. And this is a great opportunity for us to be able to do that. And we welcome, any other opportunities. Have we been in meetings every day, all day? We have. But as you're working with prospective verticals within the medical arena, within the state and local government, which are your state, universities and things, there's a procurement process that we have to go through. And we're going through those processes with several of those individuals or entities at this moment.
So if I'm wrong, this was developed in Charlotte. Is that correct? Tell us the connection to Charlotte, since we are based here. Would love to understand that.
Absolutely. So Herman Hill and Joseph Holm are natives of Charlotte, North Carolina. Like I said earlier, I am from Austin, Texas, but my connection to VitaCorpo was with Herman Hill, a longtime friend that I grew up with. And so the development has been because Joseph Holmes is in North Carolina, and so is Herman. They've worked there locally. So when I came aboard, I was not, from the absolute beginning, but from the initial start. That's how we became more of a North Carolina-based company. So when I come to face-to-face, that's where I fly to, which is why I will be seeing you guys, hopefully get an opportunity to see you face-to-face. So.
Absolutely. I'm curious what NFL team you play for.
Well, I started with the CFL, with Saskatchewan Roughriders. I left Saskatchewan, went to the Houston Oilers in '92. I was with them for a very small stint, but then I shortly retired because of injuries. And I retired because I started to have a mindset that I wanted to start a family, all the different moving and traveling things. So it was a decision that, I made because of the love of the game. So that's kind of how I got started.
I love it. Awesome. You were a wide receiver, weren't you?
I was.
Look at that.
I was an All-American. I led the country in return. So I was an All-American collegiate player from the return perspective.
I love that. Well, I was, I do my research before we come on the podcast, and I saw all your stats, and I saw how tall you are, and I'm a short guy as well, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. Follow with me, Greg.
Okay.
So I'm a short guy too, and I was a goalkeeper in college for Georgia Southern University, and my entire life I was told, you're too short. You'll never get to that level. And although I didn't, play professionally afterwards, it was amazing to be able to achieve something that everybody told me I couldn't do at such a young age. And I know on the football field, I never played football because I was told you're too small to play football. But you know what? Maybe if I had Greg's mindset, I'd be on the damn football field too, and it would have been great.
Hey, I understand and was told the same thing. My initial stint into getting into football, I was told for a week I could not get on the bus. And the exact quote from the coach was, "Little man, you're too small." And so that coach today says is the best decision he's ever made when he allowed me on the bus finally.
That's what's up.
And so that has been my driving point of my life, of people saying what I could not do. You would never be able to play professional football because you're too small. And I've taken that and that has been a driving force in business. That has been something that has driven me. I am a second generation professional athlete. My father played with the Atlanta Falcons.
Nice.
And my son is a third generation professional athlete where he played with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and back full circle to football. Now he's getting his master's and playing his final season at Prairie View A&M University, and he's about to enter into the 2021 draft for the NFL. So, while we're an athletic family, we've also had a motto of God, family, education, and then whatever else we want to do. So that's been working fine for us.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question because that's awesome right there. And awesome. I'm the same way. Sports plays a huge role in my life, although I'm not obviously playing right now or really in the sports world. It drives me every day. And I think the competition, the teamwork, there's a lot of things that athletes can learn, specifically when you go into the college level. So if you're a business out there and you're looking to hire somebody, go find an athlete. Go find somebody that's struggled to get to where they are, and maybe they succeeded, and that's going to be somebody that'll fight for you. And if you can transition that competitiveness into the business world, you'll have somebody that's a gem for your team. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you will.
Hey, Scott, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So I'm from a marketing perspective, I'm curious, and you may or may not have been involved on this side of it, but your website, it's beautiful. You have purples and very warm tones, and I notice you're wearing a purple shirt today. I'm
branding,
curious,
baby, branding.
Yeah, I'm curious where the thought process came of the colors used there, if you know the answers to that. And
well, yeah, so we have marketing people that work with the product officer of the company, and they come up with from our background, our history, and our passion of what we're doing, what colors represent us well. And so that's kind of how, you came up with the different purples and blues that's associated with the website. I could tell you that there is a personal interest in the blue. Herman and myself are from a fraternity called Phi Beta Sigma. And so there's always some blue from our fraternity perspective. So
there you go. Well, it's good looking, man. Whoever did your website development, it looks really, really good. It's very clean and to the point. Yeah.
I will let them know, and thank you for that compliment.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you a question, if you can answer this on Herman. It seems like he has a very strong background, if I'm not mistaken, in the healthcare space.
That's correct.
And so he did actually work with Pfizer from 97 to 2018. You now know that Pfizer's coming out with potentially the first vaccine. Not sure exactly when that will launch, but it seems like that's getting on the escalator to get that into development. Is there a tie-in with that? Because obviously I think once the vaccine, you mentioned this, starts getting out, that's something that will also be able to be tracked. Is that something where he's staying in touch with not only Pfizer, but people from that standpoint to understand how you guys can implement that into your app as well?
Well, so the implementation of the vaccine into the application, that particular module is simple from a VitaCorpo perspective. The thought pattern behind being able to do that has a lot to do with Herman's experience in the pharmaceutical world, right? It has a lot to do with the foresight of being in the medical world and how things progress. You have a start and you have an end. And so what is the end goal? So we couldn't, in any good conscience, develop, VitaCorpo without having that particular module as a option moving forward, understanding with all of our faith and hope that a vaccine would come at some point, just like with smallpox or anything else we've gone through, right? So, but having that pharmaceutical background for Herman has allowed us to have a little bit more strategic insights to, how this is formulated, when it comes out, what are the things that you're looking for, how do you quantitate the actual vaccine itself, and then the management of that is just more of a pure technology collaboration of once we get this information, what do we do with it? How do we make sure it's secure? Because within our application, the biggest thing and the biggest component around the platform is security, because you're dealing with data, and you have to be HIPAA compliant, to ensure that, personal data is not being leaked out or is not being attacked from some malicious malware or anything of that nature. So yes, Herman was a very important part to the strategy as it relates to preparing for vaccination starting within the United States for VitaCorpo.
I love that, man. That seems like a dream team that you guys have developed. Now, I want to ask, if you are a business owner right now, is this something that if they contact VitaCorpo, they can implement in a pretty quick standpoint? Like, are we at go point, and then what's the scalability of the app? So,
yes, any business, 1, 2, 5, 5,000, 5 million can contact VitaCorpo. The larger you are, there are price points that allows you from a volume perspective, to make it affordable. While we were saying, it could be from $30 to $50 a year for a person. Well, still that's a part of someone's budget, right? So go time, we call that, the onboarding process. We would need to know how many people we're working with to make sure that we have the devices that you choose from the process you want to use. So you might say, on my athletic department, I want to use watches because, I just want them to push a button and that's it. Or you might say, we can't afford for every athlete I need a kiosk scanner. And how many of those scanners do you need? And so everything that we produce from a hardware perspective is VitaCorpo hardware. So it's tightly integrated with our application. And so if we have all of that information, we begin the building process if we do not already have it in stock. And so you're looking at anywhere from like a week and a half to 2 weeks that we're able to get going, right? You're looking at if we are ordering, hardware from our distributor, then you're looking at like 3 weeks to make sure all the hardware is in, tested, and things of that nature.
So, that's great. I also love the customization around that, where you guys are working and not saying, this is the app, this is how it works, hope it works for you. You're really working with them to develop the program that fits not only their budget, but fits what they're looking for. I think that's awesome. Now, you've been in this, we're now almost into 2021, which I think there'll be a lot of people that'll be excited about that, whether that means anything or not. What is your advice, besides corporations or business owners calling you and implementing your app? What is your advice on what leaders of these communities need to be doing to ensure the safety? And I don't know if this is an easy question, but what should they be looking for? What are ways that we as a community, as a nation, can not only come together but get through this?
Well, the quickest way to success for us as a community is to abide by the data. And the data tells us, we need to practice social distancing and wear masks at this particular moment. Along with that, do something to manage this process, whether it's VitaCorpo or if you want to have the soldiers on the ground doing paperwork and things of that nature, you have to do something. Doing nothing is a sign of failure from the start to the end. You will fail. And what we are employing people to do is don't fail, because if you fail, we fail as a community. No matter if we're in different states or not, we're failing because we're losing people. So that's my first thing. You have to do something. The second thing is you should have, when you're doing something, policies and procedures in place that support whatever that something is, right? Because that process has to be documented so that it could be used over and over and analyzed to see if there's any gaps between what you're doing and the results that you're receiving and the results you should be receiving to be successful. Once you have that baseline, now how do I automate it? And so whether it is a VitaCorpo program or a self-developed, internal program that you're utilizing, do something that would allow you to be more efficient in managing the tasks associated with responding to the COVID-19 virus. That is the approach that we took, which is why we have a platform that allows you to do it in one single location. It looks at all of the management of people within any organization that allows you to individually communicate with those individuals securely, safely, without exposing their data, their personal data, not only to the world, but to you. Because all you need to know from that output is that this person has gone through the vital checks and it passes everything that my company says they need to pass. So you see green or you see red versus, hey, his temperature was X and his blood oxygen level was B. So you don't see that data, right? So those three components are going to provide you a good platform for success. And then as you gravitate to success, understand your fail points. If my fail point is coming about over and over and over again, then I have a gap. I have something that I need to fix. And with this platform, it's going to show you where your fail points are, right? It's going to show you actionable real-time data that say, you know what, every day Brian is taking this test 5 times. So you guess what? It might not be that Brian has a vital problem. It might be that Brian is just getting out the shower and taking a test. So his body temperature and things are not normal. And so, okay, Brian, we need to think about when you're taking your test, because when you're taking your test, it's failing 5 times a day, and then it finally kicks in at the 6th opportunity and you're successful. Or if I continue to get people to, come to the facility, and let me make this point. One of the things that we thought about when we initially started the platform was that when people are gathering to take temperature, if the person is infected, then what does that really mean? That everybody else around them now has a possibility of being infected. So the remote capability of what we were doing stimulated that idea of, okay, do it remotely. Don't come in to do testing prior to coming. And then if you pass, you can go to work. And if you don't, you need to stay at home, and then actions would be taken. So those are some of the things that, we think through.
I love that. Now, before we wrap this up, I think there'll be a lot of business owners that listen to this that will be interested in learning more. What is the best way for them to get in touch with you and get in touch with VitaCorpo?
The easiest way is you can send an email to info@VitaCorpo.com. You can go to our website at VitaCorpo.com, and that information is available. And I'm brave enough, you can call me, and 512-844-8352. And I'll be more than happy to sit and talk and strategize with what you're currently doing and how to get where you're going, whether you're using VitaCorpo or not, because once again, this is personal for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just nailed that on the head right there, is that you're willing to have conversations with people, whether they're interested or maybe they don't know, but you just want to help out. And that's really what our nation's going to need, and really the entire world, to get through this, because this is something that is crazy. I was driving by a high school today, and it said class of 2021, and it almost brought a tear to my eye, thinking there's seniors in high school that might not even go to high school this year, which is crazy. Right. So it takes companies like you, it takes leaders like you to develop things like this that are going to get us back to where we want to be, whatever that norm looks like. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of the community in Charlotte and our country. I really do appreciate people like yourself and Herman and the rest of your team for challenging yourselves to take your skill set and whether it was profitable or not, really go at it and say, we need to develop something that can make a difference. And that right there is how you leave a legacy. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Scott. I look forward to the opportunity to converse further. And if there are any questions or any strategic talks that you guys might have around this topic, please invite me. I'm more than happy. Whether it's 6 a.m. in the morning or not, I'm happy to jump on.
Thank you so much, Greg. Very informative and really, really cool. We appreciate you taking the time.
Love it.
Thank you.
So if you are listening, please like, comment, share. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Scott or me, and we can get you in touch with Greg. I'm going to share your information with some people that I think would be interested in bringing you on some webinars, sharing some information with some other business owners as well. I really think this is something that could take off and really help a lot of people. And plus, like I said, I'm a sports guy. So keep football going, man. That's whatever we got to do. Let's keep football on the television. It keeps me sane, and I love it. So thank you so much, Greg, for joining us on the Brand Builders Podcast.
Not a problem. Us short people got to stick together.
That's right, my man. That's right. Short people do big things, everybody. All right. I appreciate you, man.
All right.
Thanks so much, Greg. Nice to meet you, man.
You've been listening to the Brand Builders Podcast, brought to you by the Dunston Group with your host, Scott Dunston and Brian Young. For branded merchandise and apparel that makes first impressions and ones that last, check out the Dunston Group at dunstongroup.com.